Good evening, you're watching Estuary News. Coming up, we find out why these ladies are preparing to bear all to help their children. And we get our walking boots on to take in the great outdoors. And tonight's guest is Dr. Alec Gill, MBE, here to talk about his new book on Hull's aviation heroine, Amy Johnson. Welcome to Estuary News, I'm Dan Kemp. Now it's time for the news headlines. Tens of thousands of pounds worth of jewellery and electricals have been stolen from an address in Hessle as the occupants were asleep. The incident happened on Ferriby Road in the town between 1 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. on October the 1st. Amongst the items taken were several watches, one worth over £10,000, thousands of pounds worth of foreign currency and computers. Humberside Police are appealing for anyone who can offer any information. A government report suggests cities like Hull should be granted significant fiscal powers to allow them to invest in more essential public services. The Missing Multipliers, Devolution to Britain's mid-sized cities, was launched at the Conservative Party conference, which is currently ongoing in Manchester, and has been supported by Secretary of State for Communities and Local Government Greg Clark, MP. It's hoped allowing cities to retain a greater proportion of tax revenue they generate will increase their ability to stimulate economic growth, attract businesses and deliver better services for residents. A scooter has reportedly been seen being driven around Hull's Brantholme estate after being stolen in Beverley. The red Honda scooter was taken from a carport at the rear of a property on Minster Yard in late September. Humberside Police are appealing for anyone with any information. And over 60 stalls have been in place to promote everything that's good about business in North East Lincolnshire. Business Hive Live is the biggest local business expo and even featured a keynote speech from co-organiser of Band Aid and Live Aid Mid-Year. Here's Mark Webb, the Managing Director of eFactor.
Oh, we're really tough with the speakers. We've had somebody on blogging, a local lady who's working on a national stage for blogging. We've had someone talking about bringing humour into the workplace, who also speaks internationally. And of course, the main keynote speaker, Mid-Year.
I want to see Grimsby put on the map.
Extraordinary qualities, unmatched in anywhere else in Britain.
We need to act with one voice.
I was absolutely shocked, I'll tell you the truth.
More police officer hours spent on patrol preventing crimes from happening.
A group of women who are all mothers to children with disabilities are preparing to take part in a special fundraising event. The mums are producing a calendar with the aim of raising money for local and national charities for disabled children. However, as always, it's a calendar with a difference. We went along to meet them before the photo shoot.
The idea of women getting their kit off for a calendar became popularised after the Calendar Girls. Now a group of mothers from North Lincolnshire are following in their footsteps, but for a special cause.
Basically, we're here to finalise a boudoir calendar that we're putting together to raise money for the charities that have supported our disabled children. A friend of mine has had a boudoir shoot with Jo, and I'd seen her pictures on Facebook and had a look. It just so happened at the time that Jo had put that she was looking for somebody to raise some money for some charities. I've been doing that anyway, so I just thought, what a brilliant idea.
All the mothers involved in this shoot have disabled children with varying disabilities, and are all helped by local and national charities that do a lot of work with disabled children, and they all stand to benefit from this calendar.
There's 6 or 7 charities, isn't there, in total?
Yeah.
They range from national to local charities. We've each picked a charity that supported us on our journey. I'm supporting Magic Moments for autistic kids. A couple of the others are supporting Sheffield Hospital and Scunthorpe General Hospital, the Daisy Garland Trust.
Is it the Everetts?
Yeah, and one of the local schools, St Luke's.
While the idea of the calendar may not be the first thing that comes into people's heads when it comes to fundraising, all the mothers involved are doing it out of love for their children and a desire to help their children lead as normal lives as possible.
It's very important because we all have children with disabilities, so we'd like to raise money for the children and to benefit them and children in our local area that have got different needs.
It's also about raising awareness. Some of the disabilities that our children have are more common than others. Some of them aren't well known at all. Some people have preconceived ideas about those disabilities, so we're trying to raise awareness.
And a couple of the disabilities are totally invisible. They're not, you can't see them.
The fundraising efforts have captivated the local community, who are getting behind the calendar when it launches in late October.
I want to see Grimsby put on the map.
Extraordinary qualities, unmatched in anywhere else in Britain.
We need to act with one voice.
I was absolutely shocked, I'll tell you the truth.
More police officer hours spent on patrol preventing crimes from happening.
And if there's a story you'd like to look into, then you can contact the news team either through the Facebook or Twitter pages, or email news@estuary.tv, or call 01472 31553. So do let us know if there's anything happening in your area. Still to come tonight, we get our walking boots on to take in the great outdoors, and we'll have the latest local sports news. She made aviation history in 1930. When aged 26, she flew solo from Britain to Australia. Amy Johnson was born in Hull back in 1903 and died in 1941 in the Thames Estuary when her plane crashed amid much mystery and speculation. Now a Hull author has written a book about her life, Amy Johnson, Hessel Road tomboy, born and bred, dread and fled. And Alec Gill is here in the studio to tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, right.
Firstly, tell us a little bit about the book and what made you use Amy Johnson as a topic.
Well done. She's been a fascinating subject for a long time, and I knew she was born in Hessel Road, but a lot of people in Hull, oh no, you know, and I'd put her on a decorative wall plate. I'd had decorative wall plate about Hessel Road, the fishing community, because I've been writing about Hessel Road now for 40 years, since 1974. And photographing it and videos and everything else. So I made this wall plate. And the second one was dedicated to the women of Hessel Road. And on the one side, I put Amy Johnson. And people kept saying, well, what the heck has Amy Johnson got to do with Hessel Road? So, as if I'd got it wrong. You know. Anyway, so it's partly, that's maybe, this is back in 1991. So it's been a long time brewing. I decided to get a whole book together on the subject of, and the more I looked into her, you know, this thing, I didn't know what, you know, the title was obviously going to be Amy Johnson because everybody knows that, the big hook. But then to subtitle, I was going to put Hessel Road Girl, but then as I read more and more about her life, and growing up in Hessel Road off St George's Road, and then they went to Boulevard and she went to the Boulevard School. Her dad, she was the eldest of 4 girls. The family obviously wanted a boy. She was born, as she said, in 1903. But her dad treated her like a tomboy, you know what I mean? And he threw away her dolls, and he bought her train sets. And they'd have a rough and tumble. He'd been her dad, Will Johnson, he'd been on the Klondike, gold prospecting for gold in the 1880s. And but anyway, he used to be pretend to be a bear, and they used to on the carpet, you know, in St George's Road, muck about. And so he encouraged her tomboy traits. And when she got to the Boulevard later on, she said she could out tomboy any of the lads, and she was the only girl in the school who could play cricket and bowl over them, and. And in fact, sadly,
some people can't do that now.
No, I was never any good at it. So Amy was there. And when having 4 girls and having gone for about 8 years to a private school, she was then, when she was about 11 to 12, dumped into this mixed school of boys and girls. So she was fascinated by boys, and she thought their games were more adventurous. Being a tomboy, you see. Anyway, oh sorry.
No, it's all right. And you mentioned her father there briefly. Yeah. He was one of her biggest supporters, as you'll find in the book. Why do you think she was so kind of against associating herself with this city? Well,
with Hessel Road, I mean, the Johnson family, her granddad, was Andrew Johnson, and he'd been a Danish immigrant, and so she's 3rd generation immigrant, if you like. And he anglicised his name from Anders Johansson to Andrew Johnson. And the firm is still in existence, though not owned by the Johnson family. But her dad and her granddad, they owned Cod Farm. And the Cod Farm women on Fishdock had a bit of a reputation, shall we say, for being rude, crude and lewd. And I think with her dad owning this business, and that's where the family got its income from, she did, and her mother was quite posh and snooty about things, and she didn't want to be associated with these being called a cod farm girl. So that's what. So born and bred is in Hesel Road, and the dread and the dread of being associated with the cod farm girls. You know.
And another strange one that we found out in your book is that her own parents weren't invited to a wedding.
No. Well,
tell us a really brief bit about that.
Well, briefly, she'd done a flight, as you say, in 1930 to Australia, which, I mean, I'm a big fan of Amy's. I'm not out to get her or anything like this. And part of the city culture that's coming up in 2017, it's all be and next year's a year, 2016, it's dedicated to a festival.
Okay,
and
well, what we'll do is we'll come back to this after the break.
Next time.
Well, we'll hear more. Stay with us coming up after the break as we're hearing. We'll get our walking boots on to take in the great outdoors. We'll talk to Alex some more and we'll bring you all the latest local sports news and results. Welcome back, you're watching Estuary News, still to come. We get our walking boots on to take in the great outdoors. And we'll have the latest local sports news and results. Now still with me in the studio is Dr. Alec Gill, MBE, author of a new book on Amy Johnson. And we were talking a little bit before the break and I had to cut you off.
It's all right.
About her parents not being invited to her own wedding.
Yes, it was. I mean, after she became famous, you mentioned the flight in May 1930. There was like the chapter I call it is famous and aimless. You know, this period afterwards. It's a bit like rock stars. You know, they get famous and then they don't really do much in life besides that. And so she was a bit aimless, but she was unlucky in love as well. And she'd had an affair with somebody before she was famous. This Hans, the Swiss guy. Won't go into that. That wasn't successful.
Is that in the book?
It's all in the
book.
That's
yes,
all in the book. Yes, it's all in the book. And he did the dirty on it, to cut it short. But then when she met Jim Mollinson, nicknamed the Flying Playboy, you know, she should have picked up on some vibes. And they'd only been together face to face for 10 hours. That's the only contact they had. Anyway, and then they were on telephone or writing or whatever else. But then he proposed to her, she agreed, and they got married. And somebody told me the other day she got married in black. Anyway, she forgot to invite her parents.
She just forgot?
Well, you know.
What an easy mistake to make.
Anybody can forget to. So that wasn't good news. They were up in Bridlington, and they must have read the paper or something. Amy Johnson to get married the next morning. So the father, Will and Sis, they grabbed the two young daughters, back of the car, it's torrential rain, and they drive 250 miles overnight to the wedding in Mayfair, and they arrived just too late. And they were signing the register. Anyway, reporters recognised them, and and she came down the aisle and didn't see them. And then they got to the hotel, the reception at Mayfair, somewhere else, Grosvenor House, and the journalist told him, "Oh, your parents are in town," and Amy went ballistic, you know, sort of thing. Anyway, where are they? And they were driving back to Bridlington.
Oh,
the
no.
uninvited parents. So this gives us some insight into a personality. But what I would like to say is that with all famous people, they don't live simple lives. The chances are they don't live simple lives. But the triumph of Amy Johnson is that she clambered out from under the self-induced wreckage of her life and went on to great success. And that's what the book's about. It's about a balance between giving insights into a character.
It's absolutely fascinating. How can someone become this person that doesn't invite parents to a wedding and have this fantastic character around her? What must have happened to her in a school life?
Oh, well... She was this tomboy, as we mentioned earlier on, but she'd been the star of attention with the cricket, and she'd done other things. But then the cricket ball accident, I'll go into this in the book, she got a cricket ball in her mouth, and she began to have a lisp, and the kids took the mickey out of her. Maybe being Hesel Road kids, I don't know. And she became ostracised.
I can understand that.
And so she took to a bicycle, and after being a very sporty person, team sports, she then took to the bicycle and became truant a lot of times. And so she was often punished, And this is where the inventive fertile liar comes in. She would make excuses for why she was late, and so
we've all done that.
But in her biography, a chapter, Myself When Young, she talks all about being a tomboy and a fertile liar and everything else. So I'm just regurgitating what she's written, you know.
Okay, and if we jump forward to the end of her life,
to the war
and her death.
Yes, in 1941.
Just tell us a little bit about that. Not too much, because it's in the book, but tell us a little bit.
Well, she didn't get shot down. Simply, in a nutshell, the weather was bad, and she was ordered not to fly. She had a faulty compass. She took off anyway. It'd been in her nature, and she pushed Lady Luck, and she ran out of fuel. And sadly, I'm giving a nutshell version. Sadly, ended up in the Thames, bailing out. And a whole trawlerman, which is in the book as a revelation, he did try to save her life by shouting for the skipper to cut the engines, but that was ignored, and she was chopped to pieces by the blades of a
lovely
HMS. On a good note to end on.
Shall we finally go just quickly how people can access your ebook?
Yes, well, it is a tribute to Amy Johnson, a hero of Hull, and it's an ebook. It may become a printed book next year, but it's available on Amazon, and it's just there, and it's only cheap. It's £2.89.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for coming in, Alec, and I'm sure people will go and try and enjoy that book as well, like we have enjoyed our conversation. New research by the Ordnance Survey uncovered that a quarter of us Brits won't walk anywhere over 15 minutes. Emma Lingard, who loves to walk, as we know, joined the Grimsby Louth Ramblers group to find out why they enjoy walking.
This group of walkers defy the OS research as they simply love to walk. Despite the damp grey weather, they were preparing to walk 5 miles. This group know and appreciate the benefits of walking.
It's a cheap form of exercise, and it's very good exercise, and it's in fact recommended by the government with the health walks and things. And well, we enjoy the countryside and everything, and we walk as a group, and it's the social contact as well.
These lot, who describe themselves as silver ramblers, love to spend time outdoors. All joined for different reasons, but the social aspect plays a big part.
I used to walk a lot in my 30s and 40s, lots of hill walking, fell walking, then it sort of stopped, and I made a sort of pact with myself to start walking again when I was 65, when I retired. And I just felt that I wanted to be out in the countryside, out in the fresh air. I discovered the Lincolnshire Wolds. I've lived in my county all my life and never walked in them until now, would you believe, walked everywhere else. And I just sort of came out with this group, this fabulous group of people who walk in the Lincolnshire Wolds in the local surroundings. And it's just been an absolute delight. It's been out in the fresh air, I'm exercising, I'm enjoying every minute of it.
Just retired and my friends were walking. One of my friends took me on a walk and I thought, this is pretty good, better than walking up and down the prom, the seafront. And I was hooked from the beginning.
I used to be a couch potato years back, and walking is just so great, and it's something that you can do and keep on doing. So yeah, fresh air exercise, scenery. You see places differently when you walk. Walking with a group, we've made many new friends through the group, so there's the social aspects to it as well.
And as this footage shows, shot by the group on one of their rambles, being outdoors is great as there's so much to see. So go on, put on your wellies or walking boots and make a pledge to get outside.
Now joining me today to look at the day's news is James Smart, who's with us this week. Firstly, tell us a little about your first story then.
The first story here is a man facing jail. He failed his theory driving test twice and employed the services of a stooge to take the test on his behalf. But he employed the services of a man considerably shorter than him and someone that looked nothing like him. So
I can imagine it must be fairly easy to work out that this is the incorrect person taking the test.
The photo ID was the giveaway, I think. That he looked nothing like the man that he'd employed the services of.
I can understand why people might get panicked in that situation. I did my theory test. I was very nervous the day before. I did pass it first time, I'd like to add, but Did you do a theory test?
I did as part of the old style, but I also passed first time, yeah. So, yeah, I didn't have to employ anybody that was a foot shorter than me and looked different.
It was a very scary experience, though.
It was, yeah. I mean, what send someone to employ the services of a stooge on your behalf to do a theory test? No.
I can't imagine how much a stooge would cost.
No.
Anyway, should we move on to the
let's move on
to our next story?
The crackdown on crime as Hull Fair rolls in. It's huge, Hull Fair. I've been to it myself. It's ginormous.
Love Hull Fair. Absolutely love it.
Oh, it is brilliant. Yeah, full of colour. Yeah, it's they're employing a lot of police officers to help police the area and crack down on crime. Which is probably a really good thing. You think how many, the footfall, thousands of people across the course of the time it's there.
I think is it the largest travelling fair in Europe? I think
it is, yeah.
I think that's a big thing for Hull to be proud of.
It's huge, yeah.
But on the other hand, of course, things like that do attract crime.
Pickpockets and,
Pickpockets, exactly, things like that.
Purse snatchers and things.
You're over on Hook a Duck. The next thing,
your wallet's gone from your pocket.
They've not just hooked the £3 that you've spent on the Hook a Duck, they've also hooked the
you've got no money for candy floss left, have you?
Exactly, and that's
it.
That's what it's all about, really, and roller coasters, and let's hope they're all safe this year as well.
Exactly.
We've had worries with that in the past as well. Right, James, thank you very much for coming in and talking about our stories. Right, now it's time for the sports news. Nathan Arnold scored a brace as Grimsby Town came from behind to see off Gateshead 2-1 on Tuesday night. Gateshead went ahead when keeper James McEwen let a cross by Craig Baxter slip through his hands. But Nathan Arnold equalised 9 minutes later for the Mariners before he also added his second. The result means they're now 8 games unbeaten and a point from Bromley, who currently occupy the final playoff spot. Next up for Town is Braintree away on Saturday. Recently crowned Speedway World Champion Ty Woffenden has announced via his Instagram page that he'll race in Poland and Sweden again next year. Woffenden has signed a year's deal with Swedish outfit Vetlanda and with Polish club Betard Sparta Wrocław. He'd race for both this season and is looking to replicate in 2016. In Rugby Union, Hull Ionians pulled off an incredible last-gasp win at Fylde in National League One. Eyes came from 25-10 behind at half-time to register the win thanks to a hat-trick from Will Foden and a last-ditch winner by Sam Wilson. The side are up to 5th place ahead of their home clash with Coventry on Saturday. And finally, Grimsby boxer Kev Hooper will fight Leek's Andy Keats on the 13th of November for the English Lightweight Championship. This will be Hooper's second fight this year, having beaten Ben Wager by TKO back in March. And that's all your sport for tonight and all the news for tonight. If you've got a news story, then visit our Facebook or Twitter pages, details on the screen, or email news@estuary.tv or call Grimsby 01472 31 553. Until tomorrow, good evening.
Estuary TV weather, sponsored by Grimsby Institute for a brighter future.
Hello and welcome to Estuary TV's weather. On Thursday there'll be some good sunny spells and light winds, although cloudier in the afternoon with a risk of some showers, maximum temperatures of 15 degrees. On Friday, most parts are staying dry with some sunny spells.
Estuary TV weather, sponsored by Grimsby Institute for a brighter future.